Hello, I am Becky Hamble. Welcome to our time together here. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and sharing some background, some history, and showing you some different applications that you can be using. Let's share the screen, and I have this for you. I originally developed this using artificial intelligence, and then I decided that there were some glitches and it kind of goes rogue on me. So I decided to put it all into a PowerPoint presentation, and that's what I'm going to be using today. Here is the title screen, Taking the Mystery Out of AI. And I think I'm going to keep this in my mode versus putting it in full page for you. Anyway, here's our agenda for today. We want to talk about the adoption rate of AI, the history of it, the benefits, easy ways to start. I'm going to share some terminology so that if you're talking to people and they're spouting out different things, you feel like you can be articulate as well. And we're going to talk about then the prompts. We're going to do some examples of text, image, and presentation, or we might switch that order up a little bit. The first thing I wanted to share with you is a little bit of history, well, sort of history, sort of statistics. And a lot of times we talk about, gosh, how long did it take for something to get adopted by 1 million people? Well, Threads obviously had a built-in opportunity because they're owned by Meta and they probably have 10 billion subscribers. So when they launched, they got to 1 million in an hour. Now, ChatGPT, which is probably the most popular text AI version, that took 5 days to get to 1 million. And if we just do a little comparison, go down the list here, Facebook, which grew pretty quickly, took 10 months to hit 1 million subscribers or members. Twitter took 2 years. Airbnb took 2.5 years. And going a little further back in time, Netflix took 3.5 years to get to that level. And I just want to share that with you because ChatGPT in particular has been the leader, and there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of interest and people are pretty excited about it. And we can jump on board or we can ignore it. Depends what our priorities are and kind of what our work is. I think for most people, there is an opportunity to make use of artificial intelligence. First thing I thought I would do is share with you a little bit here on some history and maybe take a bit of a walk down memory lane. The early artificial intelligence started in the 50s, so more than 60 years ago. Now, most of us would be shocked to hear that. And I'm going to share a little more information on that. Then we moved into what was called the first wave. Then we had artificial intelligence winter and the second wave. That's all kind of lingo within the industry. I'm going to just give you some bits and pieces of that. And then the current surge you can see down here at the very bottom is what has happened since 2010 and onwards. A little history lesson down memory lane. Here are the people that first conceived of artificial intelligence. At least they're the ones credited with it. And they were at Dartmouth in 1956. So like I said, this is more than 60 years old, the discussion started. And do you remember back in the 70s and probably the 60s and 70s, actually, remember when we had a room full of computers or pieces of the computer, and some of us even remember doing the punch cards. We had to load them in the device and we'd sit down and key them, and then we'd end up with this big deck that we had. We took it over to the computer center and that would process information for us. Just had to share some of those good old day memories with you. And then things kept advancing. Well, actually, in the 60s and 70s, there were some other things available. One of those was called ELIZA, and another one was Shroud-Lu, and they really didn't do too much because the computing power wasn't available. You know how things have evolved. And then it's the part that is called the AI winter. That's when people were getting all skeptical and say, well, this isn't going to amount to anything. And there was a little bit of research on AI. And again, people weren't putting the money in it. They kind of lost interest because there were other things that people were working on, and the artificial intelligence just was sort of stalled out. Then we had the second wave, that's in the 80s and 90s. And one of the things there is what you see on your screen now, that the computer by IBM, it was called Deep Blue, I believe. Yes, Deep Blue. And that was in 96 and 97. It was the first computer that ever beat a human playing chess. And in 1996, it beat Garry Kasparov one time. And then in 1997, they had a rematch, and the computer won the majority of the matches. I think there were 6 matches, and the machine actually was the ultimate winner. And I think it's kind of fun to look at some of this because we've seen things change over time. And then we can look at how we even now have Alexa and Siri, and we don't think too much of that. And it seems to be normal. And even looking at things like Netflix that's using, I think I'll stop this right here and share with you another fun thing. Let me just pull this up and show you. And I can't get the audio working on this, so I'm just going to show you this snippet. I think this is pretty fun. All right. Doggone it. I can't find the right piece. Well, what I wanted to show you was the demonstration that my son did of the Tesla that opens its doors and it plays music and the lights flash and everything goes on. It's really quite an interesting video. Anyway, I can send you the link on that. So let's get back to our presentation. We talked very quickly about the history. Just keep in mind that things have evolved, and a lot of it is that we probably haven't paid attention, and things were evolving over time, and all of a sudden things look like it happened overnight. And we know that that didn't really happen overnight, but it did take a little while, and there has been evolution. Let's talk a little bit about how AI makes businesses more efficient. There's a few things here that I made note on the overhead for you. Task automation. So we probably haven't thought about this, and yet we know that artificial intelligence can automate repetitive tasks, and this is going to save time and resources. And generally, when we have the computer doing our task automation, it's more accurate because there's less human involvement. Now, somebody probably has to put in the data, and yet once that happens, we can process and we can do some things with it and take out the human aspect of doing the repetition. Another thing is pattern prediction, and AI algorithms can analyze data to identify trends and make predictions. So we're all familiar with algorithms. We might not be writing algorithms. However, we know through using different media right now, like LinkedIn, that there are algorithms that affect how our posts show up and how they're tracked and all that. So we know that there are recognition patterns out there, and the algorithms have been built. And Amazon and Netflix are a couple examples on that, where Amazon gets to know their customers and will recommend other products, and Netflix will do the same type of thing and will then recommend videos for people to watch. And over here on the right, AI-driven decision-making is another area where AI can make business more efficient. So as we have data, information, and so on, and the computer can do analysis, again, based on the algorithms and what's been programmed in, that can save a lot of human time. Fourth point here, enhancing customer experiences. They have actually found that chatbots and some of the other things are more efficient than going through a call center and waiting in line and being in the queue, but chatbots can come on instantaneously practically when someone inquires or has a customer service question or concern, and the chatbot can come on very quickly. And as you can see here, Gartner that does a lot of research, they predicted that by last year, 2022, that 85% of customer interactions would be handled without a human agent. And I shared this another time that there's been research done because some companies are using Facebook as an interface on customer support, customer service. And the research shows that people actually prefer dealing with the computer more than a human. And I don't recall the reasons for that from the research. Maybe has to do a little bit with how quickly they get an answer and feel like things get moved along. If there is really good chatbots, people don't even know they're dealing with a chatbot, and there are companies that can do that. The other thing is you can build in your whole automation system based on what information the chatbot gets in customer service. It can be directed to any number of areas for the appropriate person to get on the phone, or the appropriate email, or the appropriate email sequence, or the appropriate resolution. So much of this can be and is being automated. Let's look at, again, some of these benefits. Cost savings, again, it reduces operational costs and increases efficiency. So that's something most people like. Productivity increases have been noted in this. And I was looking for a couple of my statistics here. Also improved accuracy, as I already mentioned, because the algorithms will minimize errors and improve precision and enhance productivity. Again, we're always measuring productivity. You know, the labor department has those stats that come out on productivity all the time. And this assists in automating tasks, as we've discussed. And lastly, on this overhead is increased customer satisfaction. And what I want to tell you about all of these slides that we're looking at, this one was generated by artificial intelligence. This one was generated by artificial intelligence. You might know that these, I used the artificial intelligence background, and then I searched to find images that I wanted to put in. And what I did was I developed all my content. I've got probably 30 some pages, 35 pages of content, and I pared that down to about 20 or 23. And what you want to do if you have something like that is you want to put it in a PDF, and then I uploaded the PDF to this presentation software. And I'm just going to go back here real quick. If you happen to notice, the name of this software or artificial intelligence that I'm using is called presentations.ai. And I'll show you a couple more examples of that. And just want to point out that it generated most of this. So moving on, here's our statistics. And hopefully you can see this. I was not able to quite figure out how to change some of the font sizes. There's editing options and things in this. It's fairly intuitive, yet not the same as using Microsoft Word, and it's not the same as PowerPoint. So I was trying to get this done and didn't take time to learn all the intricacies. Let's look then at the first bullet point here, increase business productivity. Accenture, as we all know, the big consulting firm, they report that AI can increase business productivity by 40%. And if any of us could look at our own individual productivity and increase it 40%, that would be pretty major. It would save us a lot of time. Maybe we can shorten our work week or stop working 12-hour days or something. Predictive analytics, the second point here, another company, IDC, predicted as of 2 years ago, they said that 75% of commercial enterprise apps would use AI, and that over 90% of the consumers, missed that cut off part of that. See, that's one of the quirky things with this, that 85% of customer interaction would be handled without a human agent. That was a different statistic. Okay, let me get you that one. Okay, so here on the predictive analytics, that over 90% of consumers will interact with customer support bots. And we probably can see a lot of that happening now just from our own personal use. And that over 50% of new industrial robots will leverage AI. All right, let's take a look at the next thing I have on here. I wonder, I have to go back because that was on the original slide. Well, we're going to talk about hallucinations and you'll see what I'm talking about there. AI-driven decision-making. JP Morgan uses a contract intelligence. It's called COIN, as you can see there, C-O-I-N. And this platform reviews documents and extracts information from the documents, data, and then the people at JP Morgan Chase are able to make decisions based on this comprehensive data analysis. So think about if you had a 100-page document full of all kinds of information and details. If you had the AI that could go through that and pull out the key things and tell you what you needed to look at or do some analysis for you, how much time would that save you? That would be pretty phenomenal. Reminds me of the days when we had our old TI calculator and we would do sine, cosine, all the trigonometric functions that we would plug in there and do. And also then all the financial analysis we would do on our little handheld calculator. Remember those days? Then we got to spreadsheets and we could put formulas in to do this for us. Well, now AI can do that and more. It's pretty exciting. Economic efficiencies is another area, and this research was done by PwC, a big firm, and they estimated that the US will drive almost 16 trillion of global GDP gains by 2030. It's not that far off, as a result of productivity increases being created because of artificial intelligence. So if we could see an additional 16 trillion in GDP, that would be pretty incredible. Last point here, enhanced customer satisfaction. Guess we got a typo, better check on that one as well. According to a report by Zendesk, who does a ton of research, 29% of artificial intelligence, that got goofed up again, adopters, I'm sorry, reported that, let's find my note on that one, that 29% of adopters reported improved customer satisfaction scores. So when they were measuring their customer sat and doing their follow-up research and looking at their metrics, 29% improved the customer sat scores. And anybody that follows customer sat, you know, that would be a very big deal. One of the things is just to make it easy and get started. Personal assistants, we're all really pretty familiar with those. Siri and Alexa, I would guess that a lot of us use those. Voice to text, probably a number of us use those, whether it's on our phone or we're talking to our computer or our email or whatever it might be. Email filters, this is pretty slick. And some of this is already going on. When you have your email sorted by spam, and if you're on Outlook, you can have it sorted by your focused email, your other email, and then it will also put other things into spam or trash or whatever. That's already something that most of us are using. Well, then you can get your automation to the next level where you're going to put together a workflow and you're going to tell the computer, and it's going to work with multiple types of AI to do this. You tell the computer, when I get an email that says such and such, I want you to take this action. Number one, if I get an email that says another thing, I want you to take action too. You put it all together so that there's a process beyond what most of us are probably doing with our email right now. And then recommendation systems. Again, we can use artificial intelligence to go over different information and come back and say, here's the best choice for you. Here's the best solution. And that can be a great time saver as well. I want to stop just for a minute. If you know me at all, you know I'm an index card fiend. what I would like you to do is just take a couple minutes and make a note. We've talked about a number of things here. What other questions do you have? And what were you hoping to get out of our time together today? We've covered some stuff pretty quickly, some information quickly here. What is still lingering in your question mark box? Write down some ideas here, please. So I'll just give you like 30 seconds to do that. All right. Then please, it would be great if you shared with me what your goals and expectations were. Let me know how we're doing since we're partway through this. And then I want you to do one more thing on your index cards. I'll give you another 30 seconds. And to do this, I'm a big timer. So I'm going to time that. Take a note and start thinking about, I went over things fairly quickly here. What are some areas that you right now would like to improve your productivity and efficiency? Where can AI help you in your work or in your organization? Let's just take the 30 seconds. I'll start the timer over and write down some quick thoughts. All right, that went pretty fast, didn't it? I encourage you to keep thinking about that and make your list. You know, if you've got a list, if you've got it started, that mine's all fuzzy, out of focus. Keep that list and keep thinking about it. We're going to talk about some specific things next. And here's some of the terminology that you might run into. And just so that if you're talking to somebody else or you're in a workshop or you're somewhere and somebody starts spouting out all these words that sound like a foreign language, just want to give you some background on it because you know what, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Let's take a look here. The first thing I want to talk to you about, actually natural language processing is a big deal, but let's look at machine learning because most of this really is part of machine learning. And the definition here is the scientific study of algorithm, statistical models, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, it's all of that the computer is going to use to perform certain tasks without you having to tell it exactly what to do. And you give data to it, and it then builds its own logic. So you create the algorithm. So let me just give you a little bit simpler explanation. Imagine that you have a computer that's like a student. So you can talk to your computer. You want this computer to do something, but you don't tell it exactly how to do it. So if you had a student, you know, you're going to give that student some directions, and yet you think, they'll figure this out. They'll fill in the blanks. So instead of giving step-by-step instructions, you show it lots of examples and let it learn from those examples. So you're going to give the computer, your student, examples to learn from. So for example, if you want your computer student to recognize cats in pictures, what do you think you might do? Right. You probably would show it lots of cat pictures, and then it would figure out what makes a cat a cat. It would get to notice the dimensions, the way the ears are, the way the nose is, all of those things. And it would learn then to recognize a cat next time it saw a picture and had to decide if it was a cat or not. think about this, the machine learning, if you can, in simple terms like that, because it's about computers learning by looking at examples, not by following specific instructions, which if you were like me and you took Fortran and BASIC and all those things, and you did the punch cards or you wrote the programs, eventually with BASIC, we didn't have to write, we wouldn't use punch cards anymore. Just think about how we had to tell it exactly what to do, and we had to put it in exact order, and the whole well, that's why it was a language. We had to use the proper language. Now think about how this is done in a different way. Let's look at deep learning next. That's the one right below that, and that's machine learning again. And this is the kind of learning for the computer that's inspired by the structure of the human brain, which is a little bit hard to even imagine, isn't it? It's particularly effective in dealing with large and high dimensional data. So when you've got a ton of data, the deep learning kicks in. Let me give you a little bit more, lay terms here. So deep learning is like a special part of machine learning. As I had said, it's inspired by how our own brains work. It's great for dealing with really big and complex sets of information, like identifying things in pictures or understanding spoken words. For instance, when you use your phone to talk to Siri or Google Assistant, if you're using that, they use deep learning to understand what you are saying. And I think they do a pretty good job on that. Just this morning, this is really ridiculous. I was talking to my phone and I said, "Hey, Siri." And then I said, it didn't come on. And I said, "Hey, Siri, wake up." And it came back and said, "And a good morning to you too." I wanted it to set the timer for my headstand. And I just thought, oh my gosh, now I'm talking to the dang phone and having a conversation about having a good day. Anyway, when you do those types of things, that's an example of deep learning. So in short, it helps the computers handle complex tasks, just like how our brains handle complex information. And we don't need to get into brain discussion, but we know how our brains can have multiple things that it's processing at once, and we don't even think about how our brain is able to process information. It just does. One of the things that's getting to be a really big deal is this natural language processing, and you might hear more discussion about that today. In fact, in my artificial intelligence Q&A session this afternoon, that was one of the big things. And let's take a look at that. You've got the definition there: communicating with an intelligent system using natural language. Oh, there my Siri started talking to me. It must have heard me say something to it.
Still working.
It said it's still working. I'm sorry. It just cracks me up when my phone starts talking to me. Let's take a look at natural language
Please try again.
processing. So think of natural language processing here as teaching computers to understand and talk like humans. It's also what makes things like spell check and voice assistants like Siri and Alexa and language translation work. For instance, when you ask your phone for the weather, as I was talking to it this morning about setting the timer, it uses NLP, or natural language processing. You might hear it referred to as NLP, which also means neuro-linguistic programming. So some of us are going to wonder which NLP. And anyway, if you talk to your phone and say, ask about the weather, it uses natural language processing to understand your words and find the right answer. I know when I was in France, I kept saying, well, what's the temperature today? What's the weather going to be? Because I didn't know what to expect. The last point here is neural networks, and neural nets have been around a really long time. I'm sure you've heard discussion on neural nets, because in my futurist days, I would guess even 40 years ago, we were talking about neural nets, and that was darn exciting at that time. Well, now there's neural nets that we don't even think much of, because it's so taken for granted. We don't even know that it's using a neural network. Anyway, this is a type of deep learning as well. And it's a bit like how our brain works. Obviously, that's why it's called neural. And they're great at recognizing patterns and understanding things from messy information like pictures or text. There's a lot of this going on in the stock market world. And obviously, there's a lot of data and a lot of complex information if you're looking at different stock market transactions, investments, patterns that are going on. An example here is that when neural networks are used in speech recognition to understand what you say, or it is used in that fashion, and it's used in image recognition to figure out what's in a photo. So you'll see there's some overlap on a lot of these definitions, but they are unique. To simplify this, neural networks are like computer brains that are really good at seeing patterns and information. There's other things that I'm not going to talk about today, augmented reality and some of that kind of stuff. All right. Any questions on all of that? You can take a look at this information and go back and review it anytime that you want. I want to touch here on this aspect of generative AI and creative AI, because there's a distinction there as well. And just a lot of people hear these terms and it can be downright confusing. So let's just make sure we're talking about things and getting some understanding here. So the basic thing, one way to realize that this isn't going to be so complicated is generative AI. That refers to something that's being created and generated. Okay, just use the words that are being given to give it meaning. And in generative AI, the thing to keep in mind is that with generative AI, it's almost always referring to text. And so that would be ChatGPT, Bard, Bing, Claude, and things like that almost always are referred to as generative. So it is creating, it's generating new stuff. Now, the creative AI almost always refers to something that's an image. That's the easiest way to distinguish these two. Generative, it's words, written text. Creative is image. And this offers machines the ability to create content, your artificial intelligence, that would generally be regarded as a unique human ability. Things like composing music, painting a picture, writing a poem. And in fact, we're going to look at some things here. It's really, I think, fascinating and fun to see what we can do. Yeah, you can tell I'm a total geek on this stuff. I love it because it just can open up so many new opportunities. And at least if you look at it and you have some fun with it, it makes it a lot more accessible and doesn't seem like such a burden to get up to speed on it. Let's take a look a little bit here at getting started with using artificial intelligence. So I suggested that you make some notes on what did you want to get out of today? Are we getting there? And you can certainly follow up with me and ask me questions if we don't get to those things on your list. And then the other list was, how can you use this yourself in your work? How can your business or your organization use artificial intelligence to be more efficient, to get into new markets, to just do something that you weren't able to do or do as effectively or efficiently? First thing is, just taking off on that, is to define a strategy. So think about, what's the game plan? What are you going to do? If you're bringing this into your company or your organization and or have multiple people, the first thing you want to do is really sit down and say, what is it that we want to do as an organization, as a business, and figure out together what that's going to be. Secondly, here is to identify opportunities. Where are those opportunities where you could use AI to add value to solve business challenges, as it says? Is it going to be something that helps your business, or is it going to help your clients? Can you do a better job for your clients? And probably you're well aware of some of the systems that different companies, I won't mention names, different companies that sell products to other businesses, and they have set up, actually, some of these companies are better at monitoring inventory than the actual user is. And so there are companies that are out there that are selling products, and they monitor the inventory And then they follow up with the customer and they say, hey, you're running low on product A. Would you like to get that ordered? And by the same token, this other product that you've got looks like you might be running low on that in another week or two. Would you like to put an order in for both of them? That has been put in place by at least some of the bigger organizations for a while. And just think about what you can do to not only get better at your work, what you can do to better serve your customers. It just opens up so many opportunities. Build your expertise again here. So put together your team. And if you're the team of one, put together a conversation with yourself and figure out what you need to do to learn to be more proficient using AI. And frankly, we're going to show you some stuff in a moment here, because some of it's pretty easy. You just need to get the basics and then you can get started. We're going to explore some text and image generation with artificial intelligence. And the one that most people talk about is ChatGPT, which you've probably heard about. When I use it, I refer to it as Gabby because it's like having a conversation with somebody that spits out a bunch of information. ChatGPT 3 and 3.5 is what you can get for free now. 4 and 4.5 are, I think, always going to be ones that you have to pay for. You can do a lot for free to just play around and check things out. DALL-E is the affiliated image that goes with OpenAI, which is the company that does ChatGPT. Let's take a look a little bit here specifically about the text options that you have. ChatGPT. And that is, I guess I would say, the dominant leader in the industry right now when it comes to anything in the text side. It can draft emails, it can write code, it can answer questions, and it can be, as you see, create conversational agents. It can tutor things, it can develop seminars and webinars, and it can develop LinkedIn posts, it can develop scripts for videos. It's almost only limited by our imaginations. It can be quite amazing. And I've had it do most of those things so far. Writing a prompt, when writing a prompt in ChatGPT, we frame it as a conversation. Frankly, in most of these, you write a prompt like you're talking to a human assistant. And when you think about it that way, it makes it a lot easier. There's some quirky things, and we're just going to keep it simple today. The next one is Bing. You've probably heard about Bing, and that's a Microsoft product, and that is designed for understanding and providing detailed responses to inquiries. And so it's really good at question and answer type of tasks. And again, when you write a prompt to it, you want to be clear, have specific questions. And here's an example. If you said, what are the key differences between AI and machine learning? I was doing some work today and I said, when you talk about value proposition, give me some more explanation of that. And how is a value prop different from positioning and different from differentiation and different from competitive advantage or a UPC, a unique selling prop? And if you ask it to differentiate, it can give you really good feedback. The strength of Bing lies in its ability to understand complex queries and provide insightful responses. Let's take a look at Bard. Bard is the Google product. And true to its name, it's kind of fun that it's called Bard because we know Bard refers to writing and that kind of thing. And it can add a touch of poetry and creativity to your text, and we'll do some work on that. Again, it likes clear, creative, detailed instructions, and you can have it write, as you can see in the content here, a haunting love story set in a world where shadows have lives. And you can have it do things like write a cowboy sci-fi and give it some parameters and then let it go. Encouraging Bard's creativity can lead to some pretty interesting output for you. So keep that in mind. The next one I wanted to share is the last one is called Claude. And this is known for being really good at persuasive and business writing. Now, there are some people that love Claude. I'm not that big a fan. I still find ChatGPT kind of my good workhorse. One thing with Claude is you can usually get it to give you a longer document. For example, on ChatGPT, you could go to chat and you could say, hey, write me a 500-word blog on, and you spit out the topic. And ChatGPT can do that. Now, you might go to Claude and you might ask for something longer. And Claude is usually good at getting things that need additional length. That's the main thing that I guess I have noticed. And I don't know, I still like chat. When you're using Claude, again, be clear and tell it what you're trying to do. And it shines when you're delivering clear, engaging, and impactful business texts. Keep that in mind. And hey, it's supposed to be good at convincing, persuading, and inspiring. So check it out and see if that's the case. See if that seems to be how it works for you. One of the things that's really important then are prompts. And a prompt is just the direction that you give your AI. There's usually a box where you write it in. Sometimes you have to put a backslash in, and that's just some of the quirky nature. It's a little bit more quirky when you get to image kind of artificial intelligence. So these are the key points. Be clear and specific. Be as specific as you can. Identify different opportunities, because any of these AIs can be pretty creative. So give them the option of really sharing whatever they can find for you and put together. And a lot of times they're pretty well written. They don't know you. So if you're looking at it and saying, oh, you're just not getting it, AI, you're not understanding me, well, it's because they don't know you. And there are things that you can do. I encourage you to be careful on sharing anything proprietary, because all 4 of these will, how do I say, they may keep and use your information. You really need to have an API access to keep things safe and secure. For a lot of what we do, it doesn't matter. Just keep that in mind. If you really wanted it to speak in your voice and do certain things and give it a bunch of your articles so that it got trained in how you write, it's now going to have your articles. And then the last, where's my hallucination? Okay, so hallucinations, just to give you this, is that if you do get a little carried away on giving directions and it gets really, really long, or you say, hey, I want you to develop a 7-module presentation for me on, we'll just use artificial intelligence, a 7-module presentation for me on artificial intelligence. And I want you to give me examples for each. And I want you to give me 3 bullets for each. And I want you to give me a blog for each of the 7 points. Well, it's going to go rogue on you, most likely. And I suggest that when you do use any of these, that you watch the output, because I have found that if you give it directions and you say, hey, I want 7 key ideas, and then you come back and say, hey, will you expand on those 7? By the time it gets to number 3 or 4 on the giving you more content step, it will often goof things up and it'll put things out of order. It'll come up with new ideas, and you need to really watch it. So get prompts that are shorter. If you need to have it expand, you might just have it expand one of these key concepts at a time. Or you might say, concept 1, I want you to expand on that, give me 3 bullets, and give me examples or case studies. Then it probably is going to be okay. But you do that with point number 1. Then if you need more information on point number 2, you take point number 2 and do it separate. Anyway, some of this might be sounding like gobbledygook until you start working with it. Let's just take a minute here, and we're going to go look at. All right, so if you're going to, I got to go back and share. Hold on a second. All right, so here we are. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of actually doing this now. Right, where is it? Okay, if you're going to use ChatGPT, the leader out there now, it's actually called OpenAI. So here you go. You can see it. Make a note if you need to. this is what it looks like. And you can click on OpenAI and set up your account over here on the right, underneath some of my other stuff is where it will say login or try. Let's see if it gets me into my account now. And then you'll get a screen up. And I'm not going to do it that way. All righty. Well, I would come in. Here's one of my open accounts already, and I was doing some work on board of directors. Let's take this. I'm gonna unshare and come back just because I want to make sure that this is sharing the right screen. Sometimes the screen sharing does weird things. Now this is giving me ChatGPT 3.5, which is free. And when we were together, Bob gave me a prompt and he said, I think this was the prompt he had. Let me see. Yeah, give me a recipe for Halloween popcorn balls. All right, that's a pretty simple one. Let's see what it does. And look at how fast that was. So you can see that is going, and it gave some options, or it outlined the steps. So then the next thing I said was, can you give me a recipe that uses maple syrup? All right, let's see what it does. Certainly. Oh, maple glazed salmon. Well, that went, see, totally went rogue. All right, so we're going to fix this, and we're going to say, please give me a recipe for popcorn balls that uses maple syrup. All right, let's see if it gets it now. That was a great example, so you can see how it went rogue or hallucinated. You can check out my LinkedIn post that I did this week too. It talks about that. Okay, here we go. Certainly, here's the maple syrup popcorn balls. There's the recipe. Gives you the steps. Puts it all together for you. And because we have Halloween coming up now, Bob thought that was a good question. Then Bob also said, give me a recipe with hot or spicy cinnamon popcorn. All right, let's see what that gives us. There you go. And you can see the ingredients. It's pretty fast. All right, some cinnamon, cayenne pepper, and so on. I think that's pretty fun. Now you might say, well, what are some practical things? Well, one of the things I was working on recently was I said, you know what? I need to talk to some people about doing customer research because it is totally essential in a business. You have to do it. And I thought, you know, there's a number of reasons to do it. And I was thinking about them and I thought, well, what the heck? I'm going to go to ChatGPT and see what Chat has to say. So I said, give me some compelling reasons as an experienced marketing executive on the value of doing and having market or customer research done. How do you prove it increases sales? How do you prove it has an ROI? Well, one of the things you want to do when you're doing a prompt as well is pick the voice. In this case, because I want to ask about market research or customer research, I want this to come as if ChatGPT is a research expert or a marketing expert, because that's the frame of reference that I want. I want this to be an expert that's talking marketing talk to me. Anyway, it gave me a bunch of information, customer insights, competitive advantage, product development, et cetera, and then it went on and said the impact on sales and ROI, sales metrics, A/B testing, customer surveys, CLV, customer lifetime value, cost benefit analysis, market share, those kinds of things. Well, yeah, I agree. These are all important things. I might have a couple of things that I want to add to it, and then I can come back and say, hey, I think this is an important point too. What do you think? And then it would start generating content on that. Let's take a look at another one here. Let's go find Bing. Okay. And pretty sure you can see this, I hope. On Bing, I've got websites in a handout for you. I just never know if that works right. So I go right to Google or whatever your search engine is, DuckDuckGo or whatever, and I go to Bing AI. All right, let's see it. Okay, Bing AI, where are you, Bing AI? See if it gets us to the right place. No, we don't want trending on Bing. We want Bing AI. Huh. Okay, I'll do Bing AI generator. We don't want image. All right, there we go. So sometimes you just got to play around with it. So let's try Bing. And we can ask it the same question. Here's the box where you write in your question. And let's just say, please give me that I can make for Halloween. I think when we first did one of these, we said, you are a good cook. Da, 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 da. And it's always nice to be polite. Let's see what we get here. Can you see that coming over there on the, move this. Now it's doing the directions. All right, so we saw how that worked. And again, if you can give it a business question, let's go over here and go to Bard. All right, again, using search engine, Bard AI, here we go. We'll go with Bard. And because Bard is the writer here, let's just say, please write me a poem. Remember, it's supposed to be good at poetry and stories and things like that about popcorn. All right, please write me a poem about popcorn balls and Halloween. Let's see what it's got. There you go. Oh, Halloween popcorn balls, how I love your gooey charms with candy corn and M&Ms. You're a treat to warm my arms. On spooky nights, I crave your taste, a sweet and chewy delight. I nibble on your kernels as ghosts and ghouls take flight. You're perfect for a Halloween party or a trick or treat surprise, a treat that's both delicious and festive to sparkle in your eyes. So here's to you, Halloween popcorn balls, a spooky treat so grand. I'll savor every bite in this magical Halloween land. I think that's great. I think this is fun. All right, let's go back and let's go up here to Google again. Gonna go back here and we're gonna take a quick look at Claude. And we'll go to Claude 2 AI. All right. Okay, we'll just go to Claude 2. That's it, Anthropic. It's the company. All right, so this is what this looks like, and you'll want to set up an account and all that kind of stuff. All right, so let's talk to Claude. And I don't know, what do we want to ask Claude to do? So welcome back. I was using this for some work on meaningful capitalism because I thought, dang, I'm kind of stalled out here. So let's, should we ask it a business class question? All right, so we're going to say, what would Peter Drucker, my hero, have to say about developing a leadership team in a turnaround situation? All right, let's see what it comes up with. And again, it likes complex questions. Let's see if it can give us a piece from Peter Drucker. All right. I think this is pretty cool. It says the first priority is to stabilize the organization and buy time. Drucker emphasized acting quickly but not hastily in a crisis. Focus on stopping the bleeding and regaining control before making any major changes. In fact, I've been thinking about writing about a couple of turnarounds. I might have to go back and take a look at what Peter Drucker has to say. Anyway, I think this is pretty neat. So that is what I have for you on a couple of those. Let's get back to, not that this is going to be a big deal. Let's get back to our PowerPoint just briefly here. All right, I think I've got the right thing for you. Talk about some images. DALL-E is probably the popular one that's connected to OpenAI, which is ChatGPT world. Another is Bing. And again, remember Bing is the Microsoft, and then Midjourney. And I'm going to show you Leonardo too. All right, now we have to get back to all of that good stuff. So hold on. And we're going to go to, I think what we'll do is go back and all right, so here's Claude. And we are going to go backwards on this. Well, maybe we won't. Let's just go. Here's Bing. We're going to do Bing AI image. All right, I really like this. Okay. All right. And let's say, give me a drawing of a, I love this one. I'm going to use this one. Okay. Of a beach. This is from Bob in Fiji with a catamaran and a barbecue. All right, give me a drawing. Okay, let's see what it gives us. And it's going to take a little while. So this image that it's got sitting here is really kind of irrelevant. All right, you can see there it goes. look at these. Aren't these cool? And you can look at each one at a time. You can save them, download them, customize them. There you go. There's the catamaran. There's the barbecue. Another one. I love the little Fiji look to it. There's another one. Oh, these are different than we got the other day too. The other day on something I was working on, I said, give me images of a young robot. Look at this. Isn't that cute? I didn't really want one with flowers though, but look at this one. It's got a little heart on it. How cute is that? And some of my favorites, I wonder if I can still access. I was doing an article on hallucinations, the artificial intelligence hallucinations. So here's some of the images I got on that. First it was doing this, and I said, give me fuzzy glasses or, something that was out of focus, but I didn't want a human. So then I got these done. And this was the one that I selected. And if you're doing LinkedIn posts, anytime you can use an image that gives you enhanced engagement. People like to see images. There was, I think last I checked, over 700 impressions taking a look at this. Then I was going to show you just a couple other things here. This has some problems with being accurate with faces. And I told this one to do a photograph, and I even gave it a high resolution Canon lens to use and that kind of thing. But you can maybe see this little girl over here. She's missing a nose. And it'll do things like sometimes it'll miss an eye. It'll get the wrong number of fingers. And my whole prompt for this was to say, hey, give me a photograph of a grandfather celebrating his birthday with his grandchildren. And this is another image that it gave me. And again, I gave this one a Leica lens and thought, okay, I'm going to have this nailed. It has a problem getting some of that accurate. I also have a book on mind maps, and the concept in the mind map is the seven dimensions of life. And I thought, oh, well, what would be really cool would be a lotus flower, because 7 dimensions of life, that's kind of in keeping. I thought these were absolutely stunning. I'm probably not going to use any of them, but look at how cool they are. And another thing, I was doing a PowerPoint presentation, and I thought, well, instead of digging through the PowerPoint standard images, I'm just going to go to Bing, which actually uses DALL-E. And I said, give me some binoculars. So I picked out one of these to use in my presentation. Another part in that same presentation, I said, you know what? I'd like to have a magnifying glass to be the image for the points I'm making. So I told it, make me a magnifying glass. Now here's one that didn't work so great, where I said, I want to have 7 pieces in a pie chart, and I want them all be different colors, but in the blues. Didn't do so hot on that. Here's some other ones that I tried there. Let me see. I think that's 7 pieces. Some of them, they didn't even get 7 pieces. It kind of went crazy. And I was trying to tell it to have an arrow. Anyway, I've had different ones that didn't quite materialize into what I needed. We won't go into all of that. Here is, okay, well, we already kind of saw DALL-E. Let me pull up. Here is Leonardo, and look at that magnificent artwork. And I'm just going to show you the cover one on this. Doesn't this look like Sean Connery made into a wizard? This is totally incredible. If you set up your account there, you can just take a look at some of their images. It's just remarkable. Look at this. Is that not incredible? Look at this over here. Well, it's switched now, but it's mind-boggling what you can do with that. And I was going to show you DALL-E. Oh, Midjourney. Where's my Midjourney? Midjourney. All right. We're going a little bit over an hour here. Again, for my mind map book, designing the 7 parameters of life, I said, I want to have something that I was trying to get at different colors. Down here, I said earth tones, warm colors. This is Midjourney. It's phenomenal. It has problems with words, but I also said I actually went to Chat GPT and I had it give me a whole bunch of parameters on tone and on just a number of design elements, I guess you could call them, and had this, it gave me, as you can see here, the compass-like look in the middle. Anyway, didn't use any of those, or probably won't be, but look at this over here. And then I came back and I said, I can move this doggone thing. I can't get it out of the way. All right. Then I said, well, how about giving me an abstract view of mountains with the sun coming up and do it in purples. So I got these two. It gave me more, what I thought was quite amazing. And then on my original ones, then it put it into things that looked like books. And I thought, just not quite getting there. So I said, have this book be written. I goofed it up a little bit. I meant for it to be like a Deepak Chopra book, and I worded it wrong. So here's what it gave me. Deepak Chopra on the cover of a book. Well, that wasn't quite where I wanted to go. Anyway, this can do incredible, beautiful things. And you can do some things for free there if you want to take a look at it. Last thing I wanted to do is quickly show you some things that you can do. You know what? I don't need to show you. Oh, I might have goofed that up. Okay. Let me go back and make sure we're on this. Okay. I'm going to show you some things that you can do to make presentations. So here's Dectopus. And again, you want to set up an account, get signed in. Once you're signed in, it's going to come up and do things like this. And you can start from scratch. Most of them are kind of a similar setup. So you can start from scratch, pick a template, or create with the AI. And most of these, again, will go do things for you. This is a presentation. I want to just kind of scroll through this. I had not a lot, just basically one page of content on this idea. It's responsible AI. And I gave it the content, put it in a PowerPoint, uploaded it. It came up with these images, I think is pretty amazing. And then the intro page and this, again, pretty much my content. I love the image. This image I think is awesome as well. And again, using my content. And here, these are the 4 pieces that I gave it on the left. It added these. I alluded to some of this. However, I also, in my document that I uploaded, after certain chunks of information, I cited the source of the information. So I'm not sure if this pulled things from those sources or not. Challenges and considerations in implementing responsible AI. Again, this put together on its own. Benefits of implementing it. This, I'm pretty sure it came up with and was not part of my input. Case studies, look at this. Here it gives an example of using responsible AI and didn't name companies. It explained what was done in each company. Again, I think that's amazing. There's that one. Wanted to show you another one. This was a pre-built. Going to this. It's a pre-built. And I'm only getting, okay, come on. I'm only getting 3 pages of it. I believe it said that there were 11 pages to this document. So this is one of theirs that's ready to go. If you said you want to do a talk on this topic, here's your presentation. And like I said, this actually, I believe, has 11 pages to it. So is that pretty cool? Want to show you just briefly another one called SendStep. I really, really like this one. There's a couple that I really, really like. So SendStep, I'm going to go back. This one, again, I gave it content, as you know, and I'm just going to show you through this. I'm not going to expand to the full page. And you can see over here, it looks a lot like PowerPoint. And you can, I think all of these will download in a PowerPoint structure. This one, you've got the moving background. And once you send it to PowerPoint, I don't know if you still have that. All right, this gave me the first cover page, and the second was, here's the outline, and then here's the introduction. Again, this came up with the images. Look at this. This is amazing. And then responsible AI, look at this. They put binary code here in the form of the blind justice. Is that amazing? Another slide. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to show you is if you scroll down a little bit, it's got my notes, or it's got its notes on what is supporting material. Could you ask for anything more? Again, the problem is it might not have exactly what you want. So then you're dealing with the conversation or presentation that doesn't maybe fit what you were planning exactly. Another slide and another. And then it wraps up with a conclusion. Again, having information down below if that's needed. Now, the other one I wanted to show you that I guess we probably won't do is, for some reason, I don't think it's still showing here, is presentation AI. And that's frankly the one that I used for the PowerPoint that I put together. And what I did with mine was, I'm gonna get back to it here. And again, like I said, I'm keeping it in my format instead of full screen. And what I did was this put together. I gave it my content. I had to do a fair amount of tweaking on it, and that was a little bit laborious. It was a little bit challenging to figure out how to move things around or how to delete things. And what I did on some of these, this is just my wrap-up page, the call to action. If you've got any questions, let me know. If you want to get started, let me know. What I did on some of these, and put this into a PowerPoint. Anyway, on this one, for example, what I did was I took an existing page that I'd used in one of the other pages. Let me see which one that one is. I think that is this page, or else it was this page. So I took that and I deleted some things and I reworked it, and I found the photo that I wanted by doing a search online. And then what I did was I saved basically this background page as a template. And then that's on my hard drive on my computer. And then I downloaded the photo, got that saved. And then, so I went over here and I said, give me a new slide. And I picked the one that's in the background here. And then I did the insert picture, and from this device, because I had it saved in a file. And then I went and basically picked out the picture and just resized everything and put in a text box up here to put in a title and that kind of stuff. And what I like about doing this, in a sense, in a way, versus strictly PowerPoint, you know, when you go to PowerPoint and then you're looking at the different templates and you're trying to decide what to use and all that stuff. What I like about using AI is it decides for you. It picks out stuff and it creates it. And when I saw this with the colors and everything, I thought it was really awesome. And I liked the imagery that it used. You can see different imagery. It came up with this on its own. And I just think it's really can be pretty dynamic. You know, I reused this slide for a few different things and changed things because I like the idea of the iceberg and how there are things that we know and a whole lot of things that we don't know. And that really is where AI can help us out. And a lot of the terminology we maybe have heard and some of the basics. Anyway, that's what I have for you. And if you want the lists, the definition sheet, let me know. The other thing with the websites, I've got that as well. What I would say is I've given you the names of all these. I think it's almost better to do a search and find them on your own, because sometimes when I pulled up the website address for these and then I go back and test it, it doesn't work right. And there's a lot of really fun things too that we didn't talk about that you can do with video. Let me know how you come with all of this. Thanks for tuning in, and fire away any questions. Let me know if you want to do another time.